So I guess we're Racket programmers, so we kind of have fun in just hacking the language. But there's also explicit gamification and having fun and partying. Ben and Stephen DeGabrielle organized an event. I guess it was taking place over the summer and fall. Ben gives a summary of what happened.
Okay, let's start it. All right, welcome back. I'm glad. Oh yeah, microphone. Welcome back to a fourth edition now of summer events, friendly summer events, having fun with Racket.
Wait, fourth or third? Your slide said third.
This is the third talk in the series of talks on this. It's the fourth summer event. Excellent. So first was the standard fish picture. Second was quick scripts. Last year was macros. And this year is languages. So the ground rules were write any language with Racket this summer, or polish up an existing language. Submit it as an issue to the repository anytime between July and October. You've had summer plus. And everyone who submitted won a prize, which this year was magnets, featuring our Lang Party logo. Logo adapted from work by Gene Salmon from the 70s at the Tower of Languages. And we got lots and lots of awesome entries. So this is 21 in total, and we're going to see all of them today. So I'm glad everybody's got their coffee and donut. Let's dive in. So first up is Russian Lang. Here's a code sample. So we see we have Russian text, and then we have sweet expressions down below. And the code is just regular sweet expressions. So I can read this part. I cannot read this part, nor can I read the docs. Okay, but they're online, and I think that there's some affordances in here for Russian speakers to make the language easier to learn. Number 2 is laundry. Now, has anyone used org mode for Emacs? This is an org mode language.
Oh
exactly.
no!
So the value here is we have a formal grammar for org. I think org is not formally specified. This hashlang is a formal format. And I believe it has found bugs, or at least things worth discussing. So this is laundry grammar for org mode.
What does it do when you run it?
Parses. It parses.
Like display stuff, like in org mode style or whatever?
You know what? So these questions are awesome. I love questions. The answer is going to be I don't know for many of these. And yep. Yeah, the question was what happens when we run it? I believe it just parses. Okay, number 3, Punkt. Now, Markdown. So Punkt is a language for Markdown and adding more tags on top of that. So we see we have a Lang extension, my Lang Punkt, and then tags afterwards. So you can add in extra functions on top of Markdown to do your formatting. Punkt also has a new control character. You know, the @ sign from Scribble, the lozenge from Pollen. Now we have the dot. I think this is a nice innovation, the dot. Okay, has anyone heard of bean count?
Oh, good lord.
Finance, right?
Yeah, finance. Okay, so I'll show you a bean count program. This is going to be a big piece of code, but we like code here. So bean count is a language for double entry bookkeeping, and it comes before this Racket. So this is the Racket implementation of bean count. But there's several others. So I guess if you have taxes to do, or you want to know what your finances are, try out bean count. Rock. Okay, awk scripting. Here's the first rock script. If we run this script on the string here, which is ABC new line, DEF new line, GHI new line, we get out something pretty printed like this. So the awk scripts in Racket.
So is the idea there that you have the off character, the limiters, but then all the inside code is actually language? There's some weird mix going on, right? It looks like, is that right?
Is the idea here that we have all the awk characters that we know and love, and then Racket on top for extra extensibility? Yes, I think so.
Okay.
Okay, Hydromel is a hardware description hashlag. So here's the code for a half adder, just to give you a sense of what you can do. And then the 2 focus points for Hydromel is first, there's functional code where you want it. for synchronous circuits. And then second, as opposed to Verilog, which is a very, very expressive language, it's restricted to things that can be synthesized to modern hardware. Okay, so not just code that I can simulate, but code that I can really synthesize. Question?
But synthesize not meaning like generate code, but like make circuits.
Synthesize not in the sense of generate code, but in making circuits. Yes, yes. Recursive language. If you love natural numbers and functions on natural numbers. And here's a snippet of the code that Oak showed before. So right, it's the hash line that you want if you're reading this textbook and you want to run the code. Oh. Tiny, basic, you know what's coming. Experience and history. There's not much code here. I kept it as small as I could, but this is a subset of a larger program that prints out a Pascal triangle. So yes, there's tiny basic now in Racket to go along with alcohol. Question?
Is the CRT shader part of the language?
Is the CRT shader part of the hash line? No. That's extra, but you can read about it if you go to the repo. Okay, next up we have a very interesting language, F flat minor. So this is a small language that the author made for learning new languages. So suppose I want to pick up Rust. I need a program that I'm going to write. In writing that program, I'm going to learn more about what I can do in the Rust language. F flat minor is a use case. So I say, my first Rust program is going to be an implementation of F flat minor. It's a small stack-based language. And then we'll use that to get off the ground. So that's what I need for learning. And here's an example of factorial written in F flat minor. Budge. Okay, we're going more and more esoteric, and now we're at an official esoteric language. I'm told that this budge program is subtraction. But this is an official ESO language. It's on the esoteric wiki. And it's the second most off-ball entry that we got this year. Question?
I appreciate that the wiki describes it as more convenient.
I appreciate the wiki describes it as more convenient. Where?
The more convenient way to construct loops.
Okay, more convenient than fraction. We don't know what the bar is. But budge is now in Racket. Okay, so it's at your fingertips. Okay, this is the second strangest entry. The first strangest is standard error.
Bob Harper and Matthias Belyson united at last.
Standard ML is a strongly typed functional language, modular, and it's implemented in compilers such as Standard ML and J. We don't have a Racket implementation. It was submitted just SML and J. But we do have MLish, which is a turnstile language, which you can use from Racket. So that's almost standard ML. Also, we have SML. SML is not ML. It is Leaf's markup language. And you can implement things like a nice resume using the S markup language. Also, I really recommend looking at the implementation of SML. So it's very short, it's about 100 lines, and it's a good example of how to use these language building APIs that Racket has. Like, what do I use to instantiate a module read? And how do I dispatch on different parenthesis shapes? So SML. Super. Okay, super. Now, did I lose this? Okay, sound is okay? All right, super is a lang extension, and it's the one that many of you have been waiting for. Hashlang super bracket, and now I can use brackets to access things in my vectors, and I can use dots to get to fields and methods in my objects. So instead of doing open paren send or open paren vector ref, much, much shorter and cleaner. Another language extension here is so. So I add in hash length so racket. And what I'm getting here is a way to separate the boilerplate that I've got in a program, the magic words that need to happen on the outside, from the code that I want to focus on and edit. So I can lift that code out to the top level and say, here's a hole to fill in later. So it's a step towards more literate programming. And I'm actually using this inside the slideshow because I've got this dance at the bottom to say, make a picture of the current slide that I'm prototyping and print that out. So now I can lift that to the top level and get rid of the indentation. Okay, this next one is weird, but I made it so I can explain it. It all starts with this data set. So I've got these characters here that describe some performance data, and I know what these characters mean and how to interpret it, but nobody else does. So I made a hash line for that. And now I get two things out of the hash line. One is, if you search for this long name in the Racket docs, you get to the documentation page for the language, which gives you some English description of what's in it. The second thing we get out of the hash line is if you run this data set, Racket mydata.rkt, it prints out summary statistics to give you a view of what's inside the file. So this is a quick and dirty hash line as a way of documenting what's inside this format.
Does it do that if you run it in Dr. Racket too?
I think so. Does it do that if you run it in Dr. Racket? It's just running Racket on the main module. Yeah, it should work. Tmux Vim demo. Okay. Have you ever had to give a talk and you want to give some live coding demo, but you don't want to mistype anything? Tmux Vim demo is for you. So you start off with a hash line and you add a little bit of pre-processing, and now you just have code further down. And what this hash line will do is fire up Vim with Tmux and let you go a line at a time for your demo. And you can go forwards and backwards, and you're ready. You hit the ground running.
Brilliant.
One client of Tmux Vim demo is the next language, Key. So many of you know Key. It had a 3.0 release this summer. The Key tutorial uses Tmux Vim demo for an easy way to get rolling. But now let's focus on Key itself. We have a flow-oriented DSL, and let you puzzle over this program for a few seconds. Oh, cool. So we have a mix of Racket and Key, and on the inside, that yin-yang lets us know we're inside of a flow expression. Instead of, check out Key. It's very interesting and mind-bending. You'll enjoy it. Okay, yesterday Tim talked about Forge, and our super undergrad at Brown, Chanfan, who implemented the Forge BSL, submitted that as an entry in the hashline party. So this is a language for teaching software modeling. It's Alloy-like, implemented in Racket, and we've been very happy with it. Forge BSL. Okay. CSPC 411 Langs by William Bowman from UBC. This is a huge family of languages. So there's over 100 inside this package, and it's for teaching a compiler's course. So the course goes from a subset of scheme down to x86 in the end. And each step along the way has a hash line, so you can run the code that you're compiling to at every step. And this is one example program. What does this do? This is factorial. Okay, 2 factorials in 1 talk. It's not the end of the world. Almost done. GDLisp is, let's see, so there's a thing called Godot, which I understand is for writing scripts that implement a game. And it's not a Lisp. But GDLisp is. And so it compiles down to Godot script, and you can write code like Racket at the top. And now we're all happy. We have a better shape for our source programs. Okay, and last but not least, we have CARP, a language for NP reductions. So there's 2 parts to the CARP language. There's first describing the problem that I want to reduce one to another, and that's what this code example is doing. This is a CARP problem description of an independent set. So first we have a name. We say an instance of independent set is a graph with this natural number, and then certificate, the independent set that we have needs to be a subset of the nodes in the graph. Part 2 of CARP is a mapping from one problem to another. And so there's a combinator language for that, so that your reduction is only polynomial type. CARP Carp also uses random testing to check that your reductions are correct. And with that, we did it. So let's clap for our creators. "21 awesome languages, but there's more." We had a part 2 to the Lang party. The idea here was to capture some of the magic that happens at RacketCon. So there's people who have maybe heard about language-oriented programming or have some idea for a hash lang but aren't quite sure how to create it. And we also have these Racket gurus who know how to make a hash lang but maybe don't know, well, what do I want to do next now that I have this amazing power? So the idea was to bring these two groups together in the summer event. And it didn't work out like that. But that was the idea. And we had 2 lang requests in this category. So it didn't quite work out because these are people who made the hash lang idea and also wanted to implement the lang. So we didn't bring different groups together, but we brought out some ideas. First is text adventure game, a language for making interactive fiction. And second is we need a data description language for the Frosthaven game to describe what sort of monsters and what sort of things are in our world. Both of these hash lang ideas could use more help, so if they sound interesting, you check out the repo and get in touch with the author. And with that, we're finally done. So here's the URL where you can view all the entries. By the way, if you're ever curious about what hash langs are available in Racket, the way to do that is go to the documentation page, get to the empty search bar, type in H:, and stop there, hit enter. So that'll give you everything that's documented as a hash lang, all in one list. If you add more stuff after the colon, that'll filter it down. So if you want to see all those CSPC compiler languages, you can add a prefix. Narrow it. And with that, thank you very much, both to everyone who submitted, and a big thank you to Stephen, who helped organize this community event and who helps organize basically all the other community events. Woo! Any questions?
How did you make the slideshow?
I use slideshow. How did I make the slideshow? Using slideshow.
You should say hash lang slideshow.
Racket hash lang slideshow.
Will you give us a hint on what next year's summer vacation project might be?
Yes, what is next year's summer project going to be? This is a great question for you. We would love to find someone to organize an event. Let's talk afterwards. What would be a cool summer thing? So the idea is get people programming Racket. Right? It's got to be a low barrier to entry. It's got to be tantalizing too. So let's talk afterwards and see.
We have
Yeah, I like the idea of having a different theme every year, but I also like the idea of repeating this, right? There's something, it's like really this is not low barrier to entry, and maybe the thing to do is to separate out the idea of low barrier to entry from, something that's tantalizing, right? This has the potential to bring new people in, but it also creates a large set of artifacts that the next person comes to the Racket and says, what's in this Racket? So, what's in this Racket? Like, is there an archive somewhere on the Christian Racket website? It's like, here's all the weird things that people have built, right? And if that list keeps growing, the 17th person to look at the Racket webpage will be like, holy shit, there's a community, and they're doing super interesting things. They're doing a few things that are blowing my mind. I want to be part of this community. But that's separate from an activity that's sort of a low barrier to entry. Like Jesse's idea of the hackathon, that let's improve Racket's documentation in a very, very, very simple, straightforward, concrete way, right? Let's add examples, right? That's actually relatively low barrier to entry. Take almost any function starting and adding examples, right? And maybe it's worth thinking about separating these as two different things. And in particular, I want to suggest that the adding examples to documentation, because you come here, you look at Racket Plan, it's like awesome and everything's great, and then you go look at the documentation and it's like Homer receding into the ocean space. I think by thinking about both of those, it's not a bad idea. And I really appreciate that there's a lot of creativity being brought to this every summer, but then it also has this feel of then like you abandon the thing and move on.
Okay, lots of good suggestions. Let's try to have some continuity and momentum from year to year. Okay, I think with that, let's welcome Sam up.